Okay, last night I laid out a pretty simple example of how there's going to be two different things happening at the same time. Something that happens in country versus what happens out of country. So inside Iraq, we're going to see a redenomination and a revaluation of the currency. So, in other words, a lower denomination is going to be equivalent to a larger denomination. For example, a $1,000 dinar is going to be the same as a 1 dinar. All they're doing is deleting the zeros. It's not really that they're deleting them. There's this misconception. All they're doing is moving the decimal point over. All right. And the purpose of that is to give their country more purchasing power. Okay. That's all that happens in country. It's not the same as what happens out. So if they move the decimal over 3 points in country, it has to happen out of country at the same time. So let's go over some of these comments and let me see if I can get these answered properly. So Info Seeker says in here, hey Pimpy, can you tell me where you get the second scenario for outside the country? I have never heard of anything like two different exchange scenarios. I like your explanation of the redenom and the deleting of the zeros in country, but I highly doubt this scenario would differ outside the country. It does. It differs only because I think people are confusing and conflating two things. You guys are looking at what they're doing in country to their currency. But what we need to look at is the rate, okay? So outside the country, it affects the rate. In country, they're affecting the rate. I gave an example one time. I said, let's pretend like before the rate change or the redenomination and the revaluation, let's pretend like a car costs $30,000 or 30,000 dinar. All right. Let's say then they move the 3 zeros over. So now your dollar has 3 times the amount that it had before. When you remove the zeros, it's increasing in power of 3. So what took you 30,000 dinars to buy now only cost you 10,000 dinars to buy. Do you see what I'm saying? So the purchasing power has increased for the lower denominations. And the reason for that is when countries experience hyperinflation, they add zeros to the end of the currency to try to keep up with the amount of debt it's collecting, okay? Or the amount of dollars that are produced. The more money that's produced in country or produced period, the lower the value of the money has, okay? So what they got to do is Iraq has to lower the amount of money that's out there. Now there's lots of rumors about how much money is actually, how much dinar is actually out there. But you got to keep in, here's where fractional banking comes in. You got to keep in mind that the banks only have to hold, or the country only has to hold physically hold 10% of all the money that it uses for dividends. In other words, if it has $100,000 that it uses, it only needs physically 10,000 of it. The other 90 is digital. Okay, so it's just digital. Most of the money is digital. Okay, so fractional banking, you only need 10% to physically have. The other 90 is digital. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So this is a good question, but it kind of goes hand in hand with this one here. So John and Anthony are kind of going back and forth. He's explaining, and God, I don't know where this name gurus come from, but it's kind of funny. I like this statement. It's a little funny though. You've been listening to too many gurus for too long. I agree. There's many of you out there who've been listening to too many people for too long. I have seen a ton of misinformation and a lot of misunderstanding. So I try to keep things as simple as possible, and I'll show you through examples. Instead of just saying it, I try to hand walk you through so it makes sense. So he's saying this is actually quite simple. There can't be two rates. Name me one country, one other country that has has a different rate in and out of country, I think is what you wanted to say there. Okay, so name you another country that has two different rates in and out of country. Okay, every country's currency has two rates, has multiple rates, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so no one. Secondly, Iraq has announced many times what their plan is. It is a simple 3-0 redenomination to erase cash transactions. Once the old notes are exchanged for new ones, this will be in-country exchange for residents and bank account holders. Anyone holding dinar outside of the country will get nothing. So this is a naysayer there, John Smith is. John believes that if we do the redenomination and a $25,000 dinar has the zeros removed and it becomes a $25 dinar, then guess what? We only get a $25 dinar too. That's not the case. That's not how it works, okay? So one of the things we know we got to do is we got to reduce the amount of currency that's out there, okay? So one of the ways we heard them talk about this is the Q cards. We know about the Q cards. One of them is to start taking the money and switching it digitally, okay? So the E cards, Q cards, it's whatever you want to call them. The Q cards, there it is. So that's one of the ways when people start coming in to deposit their money into the bank, they're going to just go ahead and put the currency onto the card. They're going to do the redenomination and the revaluation. So there's plenty of articles out there to talk about this is going to take a period of time. They believe up to 3 years this is going to happen. I happen to think it's going to be a little bit quicker than that. I think it might take about 6 or 9 months for people to understand what's going on until they finally just take all their currency and just bring it in and get it over with, okay? So that's just my feeling. Now, here's the kicker. So, InfoSeeker, never heard of this scenario before. John here is saying 2 rates. 2 rates? Well, how, John? Let me show you. So this is a White House Q&A session. So you can see George Bush White House archives. I'll leave the link in the description if I remember. So you guys can come here. There's all kinds of cool things on here. So basically what's here is the gentleman's name is Hugh Tant. Okay, he's there in Iraq at the time he's responded to these Q&As. And what he's telling people is he is currently in the middle of a currency exchange. He's in the middle of it. There's a window of opportunity in which people who hold the dinar that have Saddam Hussein's face on there, you have a window of opportunity to hurry up and bring it in and swap it for equal value of the new dinar. So a $25 dinar with the Saddam Hussein's face on there is you can get 25 dinars right back. Okay? But one of the problems he's talking about in here is they're trying to resolve another problem other than the fact that the dinar is got Saddam's face on her, is what he was saying. But anyway, so it goes on here. It says, this person, Sean, says, so what are the short and long-term benefits of the adoption of the dinar as the currency in Iraq? So listen to what he says here. Basically, Iraq people deserve a single, stable, and secure currency, which is convenient to use. The currency needs to be single because currently there are 2 different currencies and exchange rate. One in the North Kurdish region and another for the rest of the country. So just in Iraq alone, they had 2 different currencies with 2 different exchange rates. So you see, it has happened before, okay? So it happens. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to use another scenario while I'm thinking about it real quick here. Let me try to, but I'll leave this in here. There's all kinds of cool things in here you'll like. The guy goes on to explain the history of things and what's the plan. As a matter of fact, he touches on here about how the currency will change in value over time. So you'll like it, but I can't remember right away. You could go in here and find it. He goes in there and explains that the currency will increase over time, and it will accumulate value. Okay, so anyways, I'm gonna get past that, but I want to show you something. Let's go here. I'm going to show you what the United States dollar to the Iraqi dollar. Okay, so here's what you need to know. So with $1 US, we can buy $1,194.81 of Iraqi dinar with our $1. Now, this is what I'm talking about, that the rates are different for different countries, okay? If this is China and they want to buy dinar, look what happens. So one of the China's dollars, just like our $1, we get 1,194. But with China, they don't get 1,000. They only get $170 worth of dinar. Why? Because the US dollar is a much more stronger, valuable currency, okay? That's why. That's what I'm talking about. I think what happens is people get this impression, they go, oh, when the rate change happens, everybody's going to go run down to the CBI. And people make comments like, how's the CBI going to have enough US dollars to pay for all the outstanding dinars that are there? Well, first of all, there's a really, really bad, that's really a bad impression about what's going to happen. You see, because every country is going to be dealing with the CBI, not the people. And here's what I'm talking about. Okay, so everybody's like, oh, look, everybody's going to get $3.22 back. Yay. No, that's not how it's going to work. Our dollar is different than other people's dollars. Okay, so based on the value of a country's dollar, it'll probably look more something like this. Now, this is not real. It's just fake. So, and we might get 322, but Canada might only get 119. Heck, Africa might only get 6 cents during the exchange. You know what I mean? Or Africa, sorry. North America gets 6 cents. Africa gets 3 cents. All right. So what I'm saying is this. I just showed you what happens when you take the US dollar. One single dollar buys 1,194 dinar, but the yen only buys you 170. That's because each country's currency has different value to it. Okay. Here's the other thing. We're not all going to be dealing with the CBI. Each country's people, here's what's going to happen. You're going to take your money to your bank and you're going to get your rate for your country when you do your exchange. So you personally are not going to be dealing with the Iraq bank. You will not be dealing with the CBI. You will go to your country's, your bank, and your bank will deal with its country's CB, the central bank. In our case in the United States, what happens is I'll take my money over to Wells Fargo, I'll deposit it, they'll lock in whatever our rate is for our country, I will get that in exchange, and then they take that currency and they take it to the Federal Reserve. And then the Federal Reserve holds on to it because they make a ton of money off that holding other countries' currencies, okay? And the exchange between will be between the Federal Reserve and the Central Bank of Iraq. They will determine how they're going to settle their things, usually in trade, oil for currency. It just depends. There's all kinds of different ways in which they exchange the currency for assets, okay? So no, we're not all going to be coming from around the world, running over to the CBI and swapping them for American dollars. Nope, that's not going to happen. Canada, when you deposit your money, whatever the Canadian dollar is, that's what you get. Over in Africa, when you exchange your money, when you take it to the bank, that's whatever you get. That's how it works, okay? Okay, so right here, let's look at some more of these. So Rick says here, let me run it. It says, I ran across this, all right? So John Smith again. There are officially over 76 trillion dinars in circulation as of August of this year. At pre-invasion levels, that's equal to 240 trillion US dollars, yet there's only 2 trillion US dollars in circulation. I just told you that. There's 10% of it is actual physical currency. The other 90% of it is digitally. When you go to the bank, do you think you're going to be hop, skipping, and jumping out the door with a sacks full of money? That's not going to happen. You might be able to take out X amount of it, but the rest of it goes digitally into your account. You can't physically get it all at one time. First of all, it's illegal. Second of all, if you're going to get large amounts of money, you have to set up an appointment. They have to order the money for you, and you pay a fee for that, okay? So keep that in mind. Most of it is digital. Only about 10% of it is physical, okay? So there's a major flaw in your argument about the dinar. The more currency in circulation, the less it's worth. I agree with you. I believe that. But that's why the currency swap is going to take place. They're going to remove the larger denominations off the streets. Now, keep in mind, there's a difference between talking about actual physical paper dollars out there versus the value of those dollars. So when you say there's 9 trillion or $240 trillion worth of dinars, well, that doesn't mean there's 240 trillion physical paper dollar bills out there. No. Some currency has 100,000 on it. Some of it has 50. Some of it has 25. So keep things in perspective, all right? So just keep that in mind. There's two things that are being confused. One, there's about 10% of the currency is actually physically out there. Okay, and two, you got to keep in mind that each currency has different denominations. So you're talking about actual values of currency. Well, you know what? The Zim has a $1 trillion bill. Does that mean when somebody goes, oh my God, there's a $600 trillion out there in Zimbabwe, man, they have way too many bills. No, there's only 6 bills. Okay. There's a difference between how much physical money is out there and how much that money is actually worth. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. Announcer, dinar holder, or rush to the bank. Oh, so here we go. Another issue is that if the RV was announced tomorrow, every dinar holder will rush to the bank looking for USD in exchange. No, you won't, okay? That's not going to happen. The people over in Britain are going to go, give me some US dollars. That's not going to happen, okay? The people over in Canada, I'm sure, are going to get whatever Canadian dollars you guys get. So every country is going to be different, okay? So let's keep going here. So aside from the fact that there ain't enough USD available, well, yeah, how do you think we have? So let me ask you something. Here's my question to you. You're saying there's only 2 trillion USD in circulation, but we currently have $23 trillion in debt. So where do you think that money is going to come from? It's digital. It's not legitimate debt. It's all digital. We don't have $22 trillion out there. Physically, it's not realistic, okay? So in the mind of a lot of people, as I talk to them, I'm starting to figure out how they're viewing things. They see that large number and they think there's physically that many bills out there, or they're not taking into consideration that there's different denominations, okay? So, and not everybody's going to be flooding to their banks looking for USD, okay? As a matter of fact, even if we did flood to our banks in America, we are not getting it all physically at one time. That's just not going to happen, okay? And believe it or not, there is less people out there holding dinar than you think. Have you ever tried to explain to somebody about this investment and they just go, yeah, I'm not interested? Because not that many people actually believe in this investment. Okay, look at some of the people leaving comments are naysayers. So, you know, a lot of people have heard about it, but not everybody's going to do it because a lot of people think this is a scam. How people holding dinar think it's a scam, okay? So, in addition to that, the average denarian is only holding 250,000 dinars. That's not very much. So don't let the numbers exaggerate in your head. It's not as bad as you think it is, okay? So, let's go over to this next one here. Ang here. I love Ang. I think I said An Tang. Okay, if I'm saying your name wrong, I apologize. I love all your comments. Quit comparing the Kuwait revaluation to Iraq re-denomination because it's not the same thing. Okay, well, first of all, nowhere in the video did I even say anything about Kuwait. I don't think I've ever mentioned Kuwait at all. I do realize they're two different scenarios. So here we go. So take my greedy glasses off. Yeah, so Tang here is one of those naysayers. He's another negative person too, doesn't believe it's going to happen. Here he is again. So you can see exactly what I'm talking about when I say people think the way they do. Who is going to pay for this? Because Iraq CBI is not going to give you $25,000 for your 25 or $75,000 for your $25,000 note. The bank in us has its money from somewhere you get paid. Okay, I'm guessing that, English is your second language, and I'm not meaning it as an insult because I'm trying to follow you here. But Tang, you're making my point. Do you see how look how Tang is thinking. There's a lot of people that think this way. Look what he's saying. because the Iraq CBI is not going to give us the money. Well, we're not dealing with the CBI. Our central banks do. In America, it's our Federal Reserve. We deal with our local banks. And how many people in your neighborhood do you think actually are running around holding dinar? I tried telling people about it, and they just looked at me like I was crazy. Okay? So think about that. How many people are actually in your neighborhood that are actually holding dinar? So when you run down to the bank, are you picturing this huge line of people standing there with their Iraqi dinar, slapping high fives, doing a wave? There might be, 5 or 6 people that come in there. Now, I do realize in some areas that are a little bit more populated, you might have a little congestion, but it's not going to be that big. And again, most people on average are holding about $250,000 in dinars. Okay, so hey, Tang, I agree with you. The CBI isn't going to give me $75,000 for my $25,000 note. My bank will, depending on the rate. Okay, so I agree with that. Okay, so here's another one. So there's going to be a swap out of country. Oh, swap out the currency in country. Okay, so let me see this here. To get those banknotes off the street once they change it in country for the of time, you think they're going to let us just use those old banknotes on the outside? If the motivation is to get the notes off the street and you claim it's for a short period of time, they're just going to be nice and let us exchange the obsolete bills? Well, okay, I think I know what you're trying to say. No, it's going to happen at the same time. Do you see what I'm saying? And we don't have to worry about the obsolete notes. The notes are still good. We just take them down to our bank, and they take them to the Federal Reserve, and they deal with the central bank. Now, whatever goes on between those two, that's up to them. It has nothing to do with me. So, in country, yes, they're not destroying them, okay? I would imagine they're not going to destroy all of them. They do need to reduce the amount that's out there and about, but it makes no sense to turn around and destroy bills. They would just store them up somewhere and then use them when they need to, okay? But yeah, they're not going to be obsolete bills. Nobody ever said that the higher denominations would be obsolete. There's just a redenomination. They're going to swap out the lower denomination for the higher ones. Nobody ever said those bills would be obsolete. Okay? That's not going to happen. Okay. Yes, so can you tell me where you get the... Oh, yeah. So I'm all the way back around. I made full circle. Okay, so there you go. I explained it to you. I hope that makes sense. If you got any more questions, just go ahead and post them in there. I went ahead and I showed you how there is a difference in purchasing power. That's why the rates are different for different countries. That's where this scenario comes from, okay? This one right here, that's what it's going to look like. Of course, those aren't real numbers. I'm just showing you for the sake of showing you. One of the ways to reduce the amount of currencies that are out there, we know about. They have the Q cards. That's one of the ways that are happening. Actually, this process started in 2010. They did take a large amount of the physical notes off the streets, but there are many rumors about how much is actually out there. I actually seen an article that said that there is actually only 4% of the currency actually out there, which might make sense if they only have to physically hold 10% of it. I can see where there's 4% out there. The rest of it's just digital, people. Okay? So I hope this helps explain things. If you have any questions, just again, leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to address them. I appreciate you tuning in. Please like and subscribe and hit notifications. Okay? So I'll try to do my best to simplify these things and hope that it makes sense. And I do appreciate when you guys leave comments, even if they're nasty ones. Okay, but no, I just appreciate you guys watching the video because I know there's a million other things you could be doing and you're actually paying attention to this video. Don't give up hope, okay? It's going to happen. There's no longer a matter of if it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, okay? Everybody have a good day. Bye-bye.